welcome to NumismaTalks. Every second and fourth Thursday of the month at noon Mountain, we will be here with a new presentation. During this presentation, you may come up with questions. If you do, please use the Q&A button on your screen to send in your question. Your question will be addressed at the end. Now I would like to introduce you to today's presenter, Jon Zampedro. Is that how you say it, Jon?
Yes. Yep.
Okay,
Zampedro.
I thought that's what I remembered from the Atlanta show. You can turn your camera back on. Just tap over. Yeah, there we go. Jon is the owner of J Edwards Collectibles and has been assisting collectors since 1992. A 1982 graduate of the University of Notre Dame, he specializes in error coins and small copper coins. Jon was born in Warren, Ohio, and is a retired member of the United States Air Force. Jon will be presenting Error Coins 101. And Jon, it's all yours.
All right. Well, I want to thank everybody for joining us today and for what I think is a great presentation on a primer on error coins. I started collecting when I was 12 years old in Warren, Ohio, and started a coin business in 1992 when I was stationed in Germany. And for those that know history, they know that 1992 in Germany was a very interesting time, especially an interesting time to be a coin dealer, since the Berlin Wall had fallen a couple of years earlier, and all of the East Germans wanted basically what the West Germans had. So it's a great time to start a coin business. As Paula said, that I am the owner of J Edwards Collectibles, and we like to think of ourselves as the home of the eight-legged buffalo. We do have a double-struck buffalo nickel. So today's agenda is we're going to start off talking about the difference between an error and a variety. We deal in error coins and currency, and we don't do too much in varieties. We'll go quickly through the minting process so that you can get a background for how the mint makes coins and perfect coins, that is. I'll go through and list some options for collecting errors. One of the questions that we get at shows is, how do I start a collection? It's pretty easy to put a set of Lincoln cents together. Sometimes it's a little more difficult and challenging to put a collection of error coins together, but I'll give you some options from there. And then I'll just describe my holy grail, the error coin that I really want to own as a collector. And then we'll do a quick summary. And as Paula said, if you have questions as we go along, just go ahead, put them in the chat, and I'll be answering questions at the end of the presentation. So Ronald Reagan once said, always start a briefing with a quote. And so now that we've got that out of the way, let's get to the presentation. So to make the distinction between errors and variety coins, I went to the dictionary, and Merriam-Webster says that an error is defined as a deficiency or imperfection in structure or function, or it's something produced by mistake. So if we look at this coin here, you see that's an off-center Indian cent. I think we can all agree that that's an error by the mint. Another one is a double-struck Washington quarter. This is an off-center Jefferson nickel struck on a 1 cent planchet. Kind of a very interesting error. And finally, this is a flip over double denomination. This is a Lincoln cent struck on an already struck Roosevelt dime. So I think we can all agree that these are error coins. These were all produced by mistake. They weren't made as the mint had intended to mint them. So then what's a variety? Going back to Merriam-Webster, variety is a state of having different forms. And then the definition that I like to use for variety is it's something differing from others of the same general kind. So let's look at this. This is a Wisconsin state quarter. And if we look at it, we said, okay, well, this is pretty much as the coin that as should be struck. But this is actually a variety. This is the low leaf variety of the Wisconsin quarter. So at first glance, you wouldn't know it's a variety until you were looking for the variety and then knew to look for this particular variety. Probably most of the audience would know what this Franklin half dollar is. And this is what's called the Bugs Bunny half dollar, which to me is a variety. There was a die error when this was struck, but it's still a variety to me and not an error because the mint struck this coin as intended, even though there was a flaw in the die. One of the more famous varieties of coins is this buffalo nickel, and this is the three-legged buffalo nickel variety. This was made by a mint employee that was polishing the die and actually polished off that leg, but still this coin was struck as intended by the mint, even though the employee there was too aggressive in polishing the die. And then probably another, arguably the most famous variety is the 1955 double die Lincoln cent. To me, this is not an error. This is a variety in that it was made by another mint employee that didn't do the hubbling correctly. So to me, these are the difference between errors and varieties. Errors basically were struck not as the mint intended, and varieties were struck as the mint intended. They just differ from what the typical coin should look like. All right, so this is a laundry list of the types of errors. In a general sense, there's off centers, multi-strike errors, off metals, where one coin is struck on a planchet intended for another denomination. Double denominations, we saw an example of that with the Lincoln cent that is struck on an already struck Roosevelt dime. And that nickname there is actually, it's called the 11-cent piece because you can see the dime and the cent on it. There are 6-cent pieces, which would be a Jefferson nickel struck on an already struck Lincoln cent. We have a 35-cent piece, which is a Washington quarter that's struck on an already struck dime. So double denominations are coins that you can see both denominations in the striking. And then there's off metals based on foreign planchets. The U.S. Mint did make coins for other countries, and sometimes the planchets intended for a foreign country gets into the striking process for U.S. coins. Struck-throughs is where something, some piece of foreign material ends up on the die or ends up on the planchet and then gets struck into the coin. And then mules are where an obverse and a reverse die are paired together in what should not have been paired together. So typically there are a lot of foreign coins that are mules. So to me, these are just a basic set of errors. Types of varieties, there are tens and tens of variety types. This is just a quick laundry list of those types of varieties. Die marriages, die wear, you can see the list there. Repunch mint marks, that's probably the most common variety that we get when we set up at a show where people come and they say these are error coins, and to me these are actually a variety where the mint employee punched the mint mark in twice on the die. Okay, so let's quickly go through the minting process. It's always good to know how a coin should be made so that we know that we're actually dealing with an error coin. This information actually came off of the United States Mint's website. So if you want more information, you can go to their website and get more of the details. I've kind of distilled it down here. Obviously, the minting process starts with die making. The die makers take what the coin should look like, and then they'll make hardened steel dies for striking the coins. And you can see there it says thousands of dies are created. And depending on the type of coin that we're striking, the die may last 20 or 30,000 strikes, or maybe even more, depending on the coin that is being struck. The blanking process is where the blanks are punched out of metal strips. The mint buys the strips of metal for copper and nickel coins, and then makes the planchets themselves. Yeah, the cent blanks come ready-made. They're bought, and also the gold planchets are the mint already makes or purchases the gold planchets for coins. So basically, what the mint is making are the planchets for the copper nickel coins or the nickel coins themselves. Okay. The upsetting is where the blanks and the blanks turn into planchets. The blanks are the round metal discs. They go into the upsetting mill, and the rim is put on the planchet. So the top picture there is what's called the blank. That's what is punched from the metal, and this has no rim. And to me, this is erroneous, called a type 1 planchet. But this is not really a planchet, it's just the blank. So this is what is punched out of the metal. The picture you see at the bottom there, that is the planchet. So the difference between a planchet and a blank is that the planchet has gone through the upsetting mill, and this rim is added to the planchet. The reason that the mint wants this rim is due to the striking pressure of the coin. The metal flow will go outside to the outside part of the planchet, and if it didn't have this rim, then the outside circumference of the coin would not strike up very well. So what this rim does is it aids in the metal that's flowing out toward the end of the coin to have a better strike up on the die. So a plank and a planchet are two separate things, and I don't really refer to them as a type 1 and a type 2. But some people say, I have a blank planchet here. Well, you either have a blank or you have a planchet. So striking obviously is where the design is added to the planchet. In this paragraph, it says that 2 dies are placed in the coining process. And actually, there's a 3rd die, and that is for the collar that adds the edge to the coin. So you have an obverse die, you have a reverse die, and depending on which one strikes the coin, you could either have the obverse die or the reverse die being called the hammer die. And so the hammer die is actually one that strikes it, and it strikes into the die that is stationary, and that's called the anvil die. So it just depends on which die goes into the coining press to be the anvil or the hammer die. The 3rd die, which is the collar, either makes the lettered edge, the reeded edge, or the plain edge. And we'll talk about what happens when this collar doesn't come up and surround the coin. But there's actually a 3rd die involved here. And at the end here, it says it's still warm to the touch. There are some engineers that believe that due to the striking pressure when making a coin, that instantaneously when the coin is struck, it actually turns liquid. So that right after, and obviously it takes a lot of heat to melt a planchet. And so that's why when the coin is struck and it comes out, it's very warm because of the striking pressure, generates an enormous amount of heat. And this is so that all of the details of the planchet can come up into the die. And in inspection, the U.S. Mint now has really increased their quality control. They do have inspectors now that will inspect the coins as they come through on the conveyor. And this is why there's very few error coins that have come out since about 2014, where if the inspector finds a coin that's an error, the entire run of coins that would go into that bin, that's 5,000 coins, they're scrapped and they're actually melted down and started all over again. So if you find an error coin after 2014, you have a very, very rare error. And finally, bagging. The coins, if you saw on the previous chart, there's the bin that the coins go into. And typically there's 5,000 coins in there. After this bin is loaded with 5,000 coins, then the mint puts them in a bag. The bag is sewn up and shipped out of the mint, and it's shipped to what's called a counting room. And this is actually where the coins are rolled and then shipped to the Federal Reserve banks. This is how in prior years where off-center coins, a lot of the heirs and majority of the heirs left the mint. They would go, they weren't inspected, so they would just go into the bin. The bin would weigh 5,000 coins. The 5,000 coins would be bagged and sewn, and then these would be shipped out to the counting room. So if you're lucky to work for a counting room, the guy that is actually putting the coins into the rolls, an off-center coin, for example, would jam the counting machine, and the worker right there would just replace the coin, and the worker would now have an off-center coin. Okay, so that's pretty much a quick summary of the minting process. So let's get into the meat of the briefing here and talk about collecting heirs. So this diagram right here, we're going to go through and explain how to describe an off-center coin. So if you were going to purchase a coin and you wanted to talk to somebody about an heir coin, if it was off-center, you could then give them a picture of what the coin looks like. So these are in a clock formation, and they start at like K. If we look at the 12 o'clock, the notation is K, and that stands for two guys that were in Ohio, Colett, and I forget the other guy's name, but that's where the K comes from. It came from the two guys that discovered or patented the nomenclature for the coins. So let's start at the top of the clock. So when you're describing an off-center coin, what you want to do is hold it so that it looks like a typical coin. So in this case, we're looking at all Lincoln cents, and you can see the Lincoln cent is in the typical configuration of a regular cent. So all the off centers are going to be measured from the direction that the off center strike is. So if we look at, if we take the one at the top, the K12 there, that Lincoln cent is off center and it's in the K12 position, meaning that the off center strike, if we're looking at a clock, would be at 12 o'clock. Going down to the bottom of the diagram at the 6th position, this Lincoln cent is off center in the direction of 6 o'clock on a clock. So this would be at K6. And then all the other clock positions are demonstrated on this diagram. Now, one key is how do we measure how far off center it is? Well, what I do is I just mentally like draw a line, a diameter, which would be a horizontal line across the coin, and halfway, and this would be 50%. So if we were to look at the cent that's at K12 there, if I was to draw a line, the diameter, the horizontal diameter, this isn't quite 50% off. So I'm guessing this looks like about 35%. Now, I do have some friends that are engineers, and they know that the width of a cent in millimeters, and then they'll measure how far off center it is, and they'll take the number of millimeters that the coin is off center divided by the diameter of the coin. They would come up with a precise number. But when you're dealing with, in my opinion, when you're dealing with error coins, you don't have to be exact or precise, just a rough estimate. So to me, all these coins are about 35% off center at the different positions. Okay, so now we have a quiz. Okay, so here's an off center Flying Eagle cent. So I'll give you some time to look at it and determine for yourself. If you were to describe this coin, say to me or to another collecting friend at, like, say, at your local coin club, how would you describe this coin off center? The first thing that I do is determine, okay, where is the strike off center? So in this case, if you were looking or had in your mind a typical Flying Eagle cent, so this off center is struck down at about the K6 position. So it's to the south. And then if you draw the horizontal diameter, this is not quite 50%. So my guess is that this coin right here is about 40% off center at K6. So that's how you would describe this off center cent. And just for trivia, the value of this off center Flying Eagle cent is about $5,500. Okay, so let's have another quiz. Now, this time, this coin is a double struck Indian cent. And you can see that I have the first strike as you would look at it as a typical Indian cent. So let's describe the second strike. So now when you're describing this coin, since it's a double strike, you have to describe both strikes. So the first strike is on center, and the second strike is off center at what clock position? And then how far off center would be the second strike? And then for those really keeping score at home, the bonus effect is this is actually a flip over strike. The second strike, this coin, after it was minted the first time, it actually flipped over in the dies. And when it was struck a second time, it was struck with the reverse struck into the obverse. All right, so let's describe this coin to describe its off center. So the first strike is on center. The second strike is off center. I would say about 75%, and it's at K7. So to describe this coin, to flip over double strike, the first strike's on center, the second strike's 75% off center. Because you can have some coins that are double struck where both strikes are off center. And I think the picture that we had of that double struck Washington corner at the beginning of the briefing, both of those strikes were off center. And again, for trivia, the value of this coin right here is about $2,100. Okay, so just some striking errors, nomenclature. We're going to go through some of the basic striking errors on coins. This is a shield nickel that was struck 40% off center at K12. This Morgan dollar is called an uncentered broad strike. Okay, so what's the difference between a broad strike and an off-center strike? Well, with a broad strike, you typically can see the entire design. And that shield nickel, you see that some of the design is missing at the top. And actually, if you look at 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock, you can see where the collar was indented that coin. In this uncentered broad strike, the collar does not come up, so that once this coin is struck, the metal flows out unencumbered by a collar. So that's why this will actually be larger than your typical Morgan dollar, and you can see the entire design. And there will be no reading. You see the denticles from the obverse die, but you will see no reading because the collar, the third die, never came up to hold the planchet. This is what's called an obverse indent. And what happens here is that a second planchet got into the coining chamber. And so both of these planchets were struck at the same time. And obviously the planchet that was laying on top of the planchet that was struck, it's going to have the other part of that of the design. So this is called an indent. And obviously for this is an obverse because this indent is on the obverse. You could also have a reverse indent. Now, if you can find that other coin, the second planchet that was struck on here, you could put them together just like a puzzle, and you'd have what's called a mated pair. And a mated pair would make that probably about 15 or 20 times what the value of that obverse indent is. So if you ever find a mated pair, they're extremely rare. And then they're very, very, very valuable. And finally, another striking error. This is called a full blockage. What typically happens here is that a coin is struck and then it adheres to a die. And so what this coin, the planchet, was stuck to is it was stuck to the obverse die. So that what you have now is think of a the cap on the die, and that's where cap dies come from. They look like little ashtrays, but you have a die that you have a coin that is stuck to the obverse die. So now, if you were to look at this die, all you can see is the reverse of the coin. And when a planchet's fed into the feeding process, and then this die strikes the planchet, you'll get the reverse image of the reverse from the coin that is stuck to the die. And that's called a brockage. This is a full brockage because you have the entire design that's on the coin. And this would actually be on the obverse of the coin. And you can actually, if you look very carefully, you could actually see Lincoln's portrait, and he'll be upside down because our coinage are 180 degrees out of phase. And you can see the outline of Lincoln on this coin. So a full brockage is one that takes up the entire planchet, and a brockage is the mirror image of a coin from one that has been stuck to a die. And again, they are very, very popular to collect. So those just some basic striking errors. Now, if you're going to deal with error coins, you're going to collect error coins, I recommend you have two types of equipment, and these are what I call must-have equipment. First is you really need a scale, and you need the scale to weigh in ounces and in grams, because if you think that you have a Jefferson nickel that's struck on a cent planchet, then you need to know how much a cent planchet weighs, and then you put it on the scale and see if it weighs the same. Another one that's really challenging is quarters that are struck on nickel planchets. Since a nickel planchet is smaller than a quarter planchet, the collar's not going to hold the planchet in. So when the nickel planchet is struck by quarter dies, the planchet is going to expand. So typically, a quarter that's struck on a nickel planchet, the nickel planchet is almost the size of the quarter. The difference, though, is going to be in the weight. So if you see a quarter, find a quarter that is thin, and you think that this quarter is struck on a nickel planchet, if you have your scale, you can put it on the scale and see if it weighs 5 grams, and then you know that that's actually a nickel planchet. Another piece of equipment that I feel is must-have is a red book. Now, there it says it doesn't have to be current. And the reason it doesn't have to be current is because for me, I don't use the red book to look up prices or anything. I use the red book to tell me how much the coin should weigh. So if I have a quarter that I think is struck on a nickel planchet, I go to the nickel section of the red book and it tells me it should weigh 5 grams. I put it on my scale. If it weighs 5 grams, and I'm pretty certain that I have a quarter that's struck on a nickel planchet. So these are two pieces of equipment that I think you must have: a scale and a red book. Now, there's some optional equipment, but I recommend that you have them. One is a book that's published by the Mint, the domestic and foreign coins manufactured by mints. And I have this book. The reason I have it is that if, for example, let's say that you think there's a quarter that's struck on a nickel planchet, and it doesn't weigh 5 grams. So what you can then do is go to this book, based on the year of the coin, look up the year in this book, and it'll tell you the foreign coins that the mint had manufactured for that year. And it'll also tell you how much it should weigh. So if you have a weight that's not accurate for the example that we're using is nickels, it might be on a foreign planchet. So this book is a great resource, a great reference material. Another one is Modern World Coins by Yeoman. And obviously, this is the same reason for a red book. The Modern World Coins is going to tell you the size of the coin and also how much it should weigh. And then also you should have a precious metal verifier so that you can tell if a coin is gold, is silver, so that you know that you're buying the precious metal that you're going to purchase. So anybody that's going to be collecting error coins, obviously in my opinion, should have a scale and red book. And then I recommend that you have those other materials there. Okay, so let's talk about some collection options. Again, when people come up our table, one of the things that frequently they talk about is, how do I put a set of error coins together? My recommendation is, since I started with Lincoln Cents, and I would think most collectors started with Lincoln Cents, an off-center year set of the Lincoln Memorials from 1959, and I stopped at the year 2000, just because the errors are hard to find after the year 2000. But this is a good set, and is very affordable of off-center cents for Lincoln Cents. Another set that would be a little more challenging would be get the 20th century Indian cents in off-center. These are only 10 coins, and then my recommendation is get all 10 off-center, and then if you want to take it a step further, get them all off-center in the same K position. So like in K9 or K3 or K12. That would be a beautiful set, off-center Lincoln Cents that were all in the same K position. And it'd be a challenge for you to find them. You can get a typeset of off metals. Here you can get, try to find a cent on a dime, a nickel on a cent, a quarter on a nickel, and a $50 on a quarter. Now with off metals, the only way to get a true off metal is the planchet that is being struck has to be smaller than the denomination that was meant to be struck. So you could not have a cent struck on a $50, because the $50 would not fit into the coining chamber of the mint. So I would submit to you that if you saw a cent that was struck on anything other than a dime, that was enhanced, or that was, let's say, encouraged by a mint employee. So that's one type of a typeset of off metals. Another one is try to get them all on a cent planchet. Now this would be extremely challenging and extremely, let's say, expensive. Jeffersons on cent planchets go for about $320, and then Buffalo nickels on cent planchets a little more. Liberty Head on more expensive. And then I've only known of one shield nickel on a cent planchet. Fred Weinberg had this, and he sold it in a heritage auction when he sold his collection, and it went for about $12,000. But it's possible to get those 4 nickels on cent planchets. And another one is to put a typeset of all the denominations on dime planchet. So again, challenging, but doable. And then one that I always recommend to people that are just starting out collecting errors is to get a typeset of striking errors. Get one that's off center, get a coin that's broad struck, get an indent, get a brockage, and then a coin that's multi-struck. And we've seen examples of this in this briefing for those. That'd be a very nice typeset. And depending on the size of the coins, you can actually get them in like one of those plastic capital holders that hold, a proof or a mint set. So there are collections that you can put together of errors. So let's talk about, most everybody wants to know, okay, how do you value these things? Because there's really no price guide for error coins. So here are my rules of thumb if you're at a show looking at error coins. First of all, the larger the coin, the more you're going to have to pay for it. So a Morgan dollar error off center obviously is going to be much more expensive than a Lincoln cent error. A couple of reasons for this, I think, is one is more popular, but the second also is that there are fewer Morgan dollars minted than there are Lincoln cents. So the supply of errors is a little thinner at the larger coins. The more non-typical the denomination, the higher the value is going to be. And what's a non-typical denomination? This would be like 2 cents, 3 cents, 20 cents, coins that are pretty much not in circulation right now. That, to me, that's a non-typical denomination. When you get those, they're worth more. You're going to have to pay more for that. The more popular the series, the higher price. For example, if you went to buy an off-center Buffalo nickel, compared to an off-center Jefferson nickel, the Buffalo nickel, I would submit, is a more popular series. More people collect Buffalo nickels than Jefferson nickels. And since it's the old law of supply and demand, if demand is high, then the price is going to be higher. And the more strikes, the higher the price. So if you had a coin that was double struck, triple struck 4 times, they typically add 10 times to sometimes 100 times based on the number of strikes. Okay, so how do we price heirs? I'll just walk you through of how I priced heirs when I first started out, and kind of still do it today when I'm offered an esoteric heir. Basically, I use two databases to look up current prices. The first one is heritage.com. In December, they had almost 27,000 heir coins in their database. Now, to get the bid price, or the price that it's sold at, you'll actually have to join heritage.com. Doesn't cost you anything. All they ask for is basically your email address, and then once you join, you'll have access to their database of prices. So it doesn't cost you anything at all. And Great Collections also has a database of heir coin prices. Now, I prefer Heritage just because it's more user-friendly. Great Collections, they typically have it by grade, where Heritage you can search. It's much more intuitive and user-friendly. So if Heritage doesn't have the coin in their database, then I'll go and look to Great Collections. The same deal with Great Collections. If you want to get access to their final prices, then you'll have to join, give them their email address, and then again, it doesn't cost anything. And then you'll have access to the database. That's not to say Great Collections is bad. It's just that I prefer Heritage. It's just simpler for me to use. So let's go and walk through this coin right here. So this is 1962D Lincoln cent that struck 75% off center at K9. And it is in a PCGS. It was in a PCGS holder, graded MS62 brown. So, let's determine what the price of this should be or would be. In heritage.com, it's sold for $89, which includes the buyer's premium. So somebody paid $89 for this coin, and you can see the date. It was just a couple of months ago. Okay, so then I went to eBay and said, okay, well, let's compare it to prices on eBay. So here's a 1962 Lincoln cent. Kind of looks like the same coin in that it's about 75% off center at K9. And the asking price was $108. So I would submit to you that that's probably the retail price based on the auction selling price of $89. Now, the reason that I prefer auction prices is that this is what this coin actually sold for. On eBay, those prices are typically what people are asking for. I'm not an eBay guy, so I don't know if you can look up to see what the coin actually sold for. Here's another 62D off-center Lincoln cent. This one's a little more, struck off-center at $125. And typically, the more off-center strike the coin is, the more value it's going to be, especially if it has a date. I recommend that if you're going to get off-center coins, get one with a date. This one is a branch mint, the Denver mint, that's that would be more expensive than one from the Philadelphia Mint, just because there were less coins minted at Denver for this year, 62 than in Philadelphia. Okay, so that's not too far out of line, I don't think, $125. Here's one for $138, about 75% off center, still has the date and the mint mark. And then here's one, 62D. Now, this is an ANAX MS63 holder, where our PCGS is MS62. I'll talk about eventually. I think I'm not going to talk about grading, but sometimes the grading services do a disservice to error coins, just because that coin's not going to have the same die pressure as, say, a coin that's struck on center. That's all I'll say about that right now. But anyway, so this coin, the asking price is $330, and it doesn't look that different from the coin there at the top, where they're asking $108, or the coin that sold at Heritage. And actually, the one that sold at Heritage has a little bit of red. So I like going to Heritage or Great Collections to see what the coins actually sold for, rather than going to eBay and having a whole laundry list of prices for a coin. So obviously, if you're selling this coin, you like the $330 price. And if you're buying the coin, you like the $89 price at Heritage. So that's pretty much how I price errors that I don't see very often. Another technique that I use when pricing errors is I'll actually walk the floor at a show and see what other people are selling their error coins for. Okay, so let's talk about some cherry picking opportunities here, or how you can make some money. So this coin, I think we all agree that this is 1943 cent, and it's probably in, let's say it's in XF condition, and so the value is 60 cents. But if you're being sharp and you're looking at this coin, if you look at the K12 area, you'll see that there's kind of some striking anomalies there, and then the L in Liberty is kind of weak. And that is because this coin is actually struck on a silver dime planchet. Now, how would you know it would be struck on a silver dime planchet? Well, if you're going through a bunch of 1943 steel cents and you see one that's a little bit thinner and the strike is kind of non-typical, put it on your scale. And if it weighs what a dime should weigh, then you know that you've paid your mortgage for a couple months. Let's look at another one. Again, if we just look at this coin, if you look at the K11, K12, K10 area of this coin, you'll see that there's some striking anomalies there. And then at the bottom of the coin, around K5 and K6, part of the legend is missing. Now, what this is we can all agree this is a 2003 Illinois State Quarter. In uncirculated condition, it's worth about $5. But because you're sharp and you notice there's some striking weirdness about this, you weigh it and it actually weighs 5 grams. And this coin is actually struck on a nickel planchet, and $800. So my point is that if you're going to a show, don't walk past the dealers, the bin of coins that are less value. Go through there. I know it's going to take some time, but just go through 10 or 20 coins and see if you find any striking anomalies. My last example here is 1905 V-nickel. Again, if you look like a K1 to K3, you'll see the denticles are kind of weak. There's a nice strike of the rim there, but if you look over in K8, it seems like the rim is missing. So again, this one has some weird striking anomalies to it. Now, the VF condition, this coin's worth about $12, but because you were sharp and you noticed that there was something weird about this coin, you weighed it on your scale and you found that it's on a foreign planchet. And I think this is on a Panama 5 Centésimos, and because it's on a foreign planchet, It's worth about $900. So there are cherry picking opportunities there, and you can just go to a dealer's junk bin and just go through and see if you've got any, just start looking for weird striking errors. So finally, I just want to end with the coin that I would love to own. I would sell, if I could, just about everything. I would have to sell just about everything I own to get this coin. And what my Holy Grail is, it's a very harshly cleaned 1900 Lincoln cent, or a 1900 Indian cent. So this looks like it's been harshly cleaned, but actually this coin is struck on a $2.50 eagle planchet. And you can actually see some repunched dates on this coin. And this coin, there's only 6 known, and it sold for, there you go, $141,000 10 years ago. So I would imagine it's worth considerably more today. So in summary, again, I just want to thank you for your time. I know everybody's time is valuable, and I appreciate you spending this afternoon with me. Just to sum it up real quick, to start a collection, I recommend you just look at a lot of heirs and then pick the heir type that you like, that's interesting to you most. I've always been collecting small copper coins since I was 12 years old. So to me, if you ever came to look at my collection, majority of my heirs are copper heirs. They're off-center strikes on Indian cents and Lincoln cents, or they're double denominations. Jeffersons on cent planchet. I've got Franklin $50 on cent planchets, Kennedy $50 on cent planchets. So I just love small copper. In that vein, heir collecting is the most individual pursuit. For me, I love small copper. So I collect, the majority of my heirs are small copper ones. We looked at some collecting options that you can put together. And so you can put a set together at reasonable cost. Putting a set of off-center Lincoln cents from 59 to 2000 together, I submit to you would be cheaper than putting a set of XF Buffalo nickels together. So you can do it. And then it's always the thrill of the hunt. I always like the thrill of the hunt, looking for the coins. To get a sense or a feel for what heirs, the price range of heirs, Heritage has an heir auction, I think, like every 3 months. That starts at 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock here on the East Coast. And it's for a couple hours. Just sit there and just follow the auction. You'll get a sense for how much these go for, and then also the different range of heirs too. And that doesn't cost you anything, about 2 hours of your time. So you just sit there and just go through the virtual auction as they're going through the bidding process there. I highly recommend you work with a professional dealer. Not only because they can mentor you with your collection, but the professional dealers have a network of other dealers. So I know that I work with a couple of dealers that do not deal with error coins, but anytime that they get an error coin, they give me a call and I'm able to purchase it. And so if I know I have a collector that collects that type of error, then I work with him and get him the error that he wants. And finally, have fun. Have fun with this air hobby. For me, it's fabulous for all the reasons that are listed in this summary part. So again, I just want to thank you for your time and your interest in air coins. And if you're at a show, one of the major shows, stop by the table and introduce yourself. We always love to meet new people.
Thank you. It looks like we have about 20-ish questions, so we'll try to get through. I don't want to take your time more than you're available. So if you'll stop sharing, that would be great.
Okay.
And then I'm going to pull up. Remember, now some of these questions came in early. I do think some of them have been answered, but I'll go ahead and put them out there just in case there's anything else you want to clarify.
Sure.
So is there a go-to website that contains a list of searchable error and variety coins by denominations? I think you answered that, but
yeah, I would go to Heritage.
Yeah.
Huge database there.
Somebody's just curious. They are asking, are you from Warren, Ohio, our area close to Parkinsburg, West Virginia?
No, um, uh, that's probably about 2 hours to the south of me.
Okay.
Warren's in the northeast corner by Youngstown, right on the Ohio-Pennsylvania border.
Okay. And then, okay, sorry. Somebody said that's called a mule error, right? I think that was at the beginning when you were showing the differences of the.
So a mule is when an obverse die and a reverse die are paired together and not meant to be paired together. So, for example, there is one very famous Sacagawea US $1 error that has a Washington quarter on the reverse. So that's the Sacagawea mule error. There's about 9 known. Typically, the foreign ones are the most common. For some reason, the quality in the foreign mints weren't very stringent.
Okay.
And the Philippine heirs have the most mules. And I was told that from a friend of mine who has probably had the best Philippine collection in the world. And he told me that Philippine mules are probably the most common mule.
Do you consider the 1943 copper or 1944 steel cent to be errors or varieties?
Yes, those are heirs because that's off metal error. Because that coin was not struck as the mint intended it to be. That's my definition.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Sure.
Where do cuds or delaminations come in?
So yes. So for me, that's right on the borderline. I still think it's an error because that's a planchet flaw, and the coin is not minted as the mint intended. So yeah, I love laminations.
Have coins been struck on blanks before?
Yes. And you will see that the rim will be almost non-existent because of the upset mill didn't get to it. But yes, you will see coins that are struck on blanks, and they won't be struck very well.
How much is a 1937 D three-legged buffalo nickel worth? NGC MS 64 grade.
Oh, I don't have a price tag with me right now.
And that's okay to say you don't know.
I do not know. But try to find that on a cent planchet, and you'd have a coin that's worth about $200,000.
Will the penny be discontinued?
That's a great question. It depends on how strong the zinc lobby is. My guess is yes. Eventually, the cent would be discontinued, and also the nickel, because that's costing us a lot of money. Now, just as I got a couple minutes, so I was stationed in Germany from 1990 to 94, and when we would go to the base exchange, the U.S. 7-Eleven, we did not have cents in Germany because they were just too heavy and too expensive to ship over there. So all transactions were either rounded up or down to the nearest nickel, and we did not have a problem with having no cents. And then the German economy, they had no 1 mark paper dollars. The smallest mark currency note was a 5 mark. So we had 1 and 2 and 5 mark coins, and we didn't have a problem with 1 mark coins. So I'm an advocate of getting rid of the $1 bill and going back to $1 coins. So just from my experiences in Germany.
I have been trying to find a metal tester for cheap. Any recommendations?
They aren't cheap. They're about $1,200.
There you go.
And you get what you pay for. Since we've bought our precious metal verifier, we've saved ourselves about $3,500 in finding gold coins that were counterfeit. So it will pay for itself.
So this person says, great presentation. How can we get a copy of your slides?
Paula, you'll have to handle that.
Okay. So are you willing to share the slide?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. So if you're interested in getting that, you can email me at P Nepper. I'll actually type it in here. It's pnepper@money.org. And just let me know that you want those. Let's see, I lost my spot here. Wondering your opinion on why 2-cent coin errors are so rare when 3-cent nickel and Indian cents of the same era are so plentiful.
That's a great question. I think that's because I'd have to look, but I think there were fewer 2-cent pieces minted than 3-cent pieces. 3-cent pieces were minted basically so people could buy postage.
Okay.
So I think there were a lot more 3 cents made than 2-cent pieces.
Okay. How do some extreme errors on modern coins make it out of the mint? I think you answered that, but go ahead.
Yeah, they go in the big box, they go into the bag's thrown out, and out it goes.
Mm-hmm.
That was before the mint really got stringent on their quality control.
So now doesn't happen as much.
Right.
Well,
yeah. So, yeah, if I can give an example, it's like say a Lincoln cent that was struck on a dime planchet. So when the mint was making dimes, once they stopped, they'd have a bin of dime planchets. So they dump the bin out of dime planchets. Well, occasionally 1 or 2 of the planchets will stay in the bottom of the bin. Then the mint loads this bin up with cent planchets. And so now you have dime planchets at the bottom of this bin. And since the dime planchet is smaller than the cent planchet, it will go through the feeding machine. And typically that's how you get a cent on a dime. And then it just goes into the big box of 5,000.
Yeah.
It's sewn up and out the mint. Yeah. Out of the mint it goes.
All right. Is the percentage off center does the percentage off center refer to the struck portion or the unstruck portion?
The struck portion.
Oh, somebody's giving you.
So I'm thinking about that. So, yeah. So the smaller the coin that you can see would be the greater the off center. So.
Okay. Somebody's giving you a tip on eBay. You can add a filter for sold items. I think you talked about how much it actually sold for, and you're not an eBay person, so that's okay. What would you use as a markup on your $89 example of the 1962 D?
Typically 20%.
What would cause a very wide rim on a coin?
The collar there was no collar when it was struck. Because once the coin is struck, the metal wants to flow out to the edge of the coin. So if there was no rim, then my initial reaction would be that there was an issue with the collar. The collar didn't hold the planchet in.
Somebody wants to know if you will be at the Chicago show.
I will not be at Central States, but I will be at Pan.
Okay. Somebody's asking about the playback of this, and I'll talk about that in a minute. This person.
We are at Fun every year.
Oh, there you go.
And I won't be at Oklahoma for the ANA. We were in Atlanta though. We will be in Savannah next year and Pittsburgh for the ANAs.
Perfect. This person says, I live in Hawaii on the island of Kauai with no access to dealers. What can I do?
You're on Kauai? Because we'll be in Oahu in November for the Hawaii State Show. Yeah, that's a great question. I've been to Honolulu a couple of times last year. I wasn't able to find it, but there is a coin shop in Honolulu. My recommendation is you're on the internet. Go to, I'm a poster boy for Heritage, go to Heritage and just, get a recommendation. If there's a local coin club there, just ask for recommendations for dealers that you would trust.
Somebody on that same thought is asking if you have an online store.
We're getting our website up and running. What's holding us up right now is getting credit card payment options. Right now, we don't take credit cards. We will have a website, jedwardscc.net is the website. And we're going to start advertising in most of the larger periodicals. So,
Great.
we plan on doing that. And like I said, the long pole in the tent is taking credit card payments.
There you go. How do cuds differ from rolling folds?
So a cud is actually a break in the die. So a die has broken, and that would create the cud because part of the die is missing. Rolling errors is when it was rolled out to make planchets in the upset mill.
Okay.
So the cud is a striking error. The rolling error is when the planchet was made.
Okay. Will you be at the Schaumburg show?
That's Central State. No.
Okay.
No, we won't.
I didn't recognize Schaumburg, so I was,
yeah. I'll actually be in Chicago the weekend before, though, at my roommate's 65th birthday party.
Aw. Why were there many clad layer missing coins in early state quarters?
So the clad layer missing is when you think of a clad coin, it's like a sandwich. There's a piece of copper sandwiched in between two pieces of clad. If the annealing process is not very good, in fact, this is the case with the state quarters, what you'll have is when it's mixed, you'll get some air that's between the clad layer and the copper layer. And when the coin is struck, the heat that causes, during the striking process will cause this air to expand. And so you'll get a lot of the clad layers would be missing.
Are hub doubling, improper annealing, or grease marks considered errors?
Those are varieties to me.
Okay. We're almost done.
Great questions. I love them.
Yeah. Can you say your upcoming website again, please? Somebody's asking.
Yeah, it's J Edwards, the letter J, Edwards, cc.net.
Perfect.
Yeah. CC stands for coins and currency. So it's J Edwards cc.net.
Somebody's asking if it is worth having an error coin slabbed.
The only reason that I would have an error coin slab is to make sure that it's genuine.
Perfect. Okay, that is the last question. So I'm going to just do my little wrap up here and let everybody know how they can find this later. I do want to say thank you again, Jon, for a great presentation and for everybody that joined us. Our NumismaTalks are being recorded and will be available on our website at money.org under the Education tab. Once they're edited, and it's not tomorrow, it usually takes a few weeks for that to happen. So give us some patience. Please be sure to check for future programs on our website at money.org under the Education tab. And we do have this month coming up National Coin Week, and we will have a NumismaTalk every day that week. That's the week of the 21st. So thank you all for being here, and I appreciate you very much, Jon.
Yes, thank you, Paula. I appreciate you.
Have a great day.
Yep, you too.